In this video I want to address three issues which I believe are interrelated in some ways. Those issues are anger, hate, and the concept of extremism. Now, I'm making this video just minutes after I was pretty angry about something. And to give you the context as to why I'm making this video, I should say that one of my main weaknesses as a person is that I do have a pretty bad temper. It's not a temper I often show publicly, sometimes on videos. I'm pretty good at controlling it publicly, but privately, there's some things, quite a lot of things I find utterly intolerable, and I do get very, very angry. Anger is not an alien concept. Many people go through it, so there's no need to explain it, but it's just a very bad anger. And it's closely related to the concept of hatred. I'll just tell you the thing I was angry about was the issue of workfare in Britain, forced unpaid labour. There's a small amount of job seekers allowance goes with that, but there's no salary, nothing that could be called a salary that's appropriate to a living wage in this country. It's an issue I have very strong views on because I've been through it, and I know how soul destroying it is. I know how counterproductive it is. And basically I was on a Facebook forum for one of the leading members of the Conservative Party, Boris Johnson, the Mayor of London, who supports workfare. By the way, this is the man who claimed that a £250,000 salary for a newspaper column that he contributed to in the Daily Telegraph was chicken feed. He described that pay as chicken feed when he was asked about it. This same man supports workfare. Now, in Britain, unfortunately, Boris Johnson's our most popular politician. He has a large personal mandate. He's been Mayor of London. He was re-elected earlier this year. And he, I think it's because he has a sort of clownish charm, or he's witty, and he's not like a normal politician in the sense that he's a bit eccentric. But all of that charm doesn't hide the truth for me, which is, in my opinion, he's a callous Tory bastard. I do believe the Tory Party is cold-blooded on many social issues. I'm not saying on everything, but I believe on the issue of unemployment they've got no soul. They've got no heart, no compassion, and they're utterly cold-blooded. And I believe the evidence for that is abundant. But that's getting into ideology and stuff. In this video, I just want to speak about some of the language we use, and I've been guilty of this. I've used the term extremism for people who have expressed views based on, probably in deep rage, views sort of advocating violence, views are deeply bigoted and so on. But how do we define an extremist exactly? Now, I've used a word, usually in the context of political extremes, one way or the other. Some people, on the unemployment issue, some people may describe me as an extreme left-winger. I don't think I am, actually. I regard myself as a centrist. But because I hate communism. But anyway, not to go into that, but the point I'd like to raise is that this term extremism often gets thrown around, and I have used it myself, in describing people like certain religious fundamentalists, terrorists, etc. And I still think the term is probably acceptable. But there is a question here. Is there a clear dividing line? Is there a very thin line between those who feel deep anger and hatred and those who act on it? Now, I can't deny there's individuals I hate. I hate them because they hurt me and people in my position, unemployed people, by stirring up bigotry and distortion against us and forcing us onto counterproductive, soul-destroying programs like workfare. It's been a few years since I've done it, but that was one of the most humiliating experiences of my life, and I believe it was designed to be. So I hate the people at the work program who revelled in exploiting others. I hated the government of the time. I hate the current government for continuing it. In fact, I really hate the current government because not only have they continued it, but they've been very enthusiastic about their support for it, very vocal in their support for it. There are Tories I hate. I hate in Duncan Smith. I hate Chris Grayling. I now hate Boris Johnson. And then the question is, because I use this word hate, am I therefore an extremist? Because I have a very strong view on the matter. There's others I hate. I hate Jeremy Kyle. I hate Gordon Ramsay. I hate any company, or at least any individual managers who exploit workers. I hate communism because of its brutal, repressive, specifically the Chinese Communist Party, because of its brutal human rights record, its censorship, and a whole range of other reasons. Its vicious and cowardly persecution of Falun Gong members. I hate the gun lobby in America, like the likes of the NRA. I hate religious fascists. The truth is, there's a lot of people I hate, so maybe I'm an extremist as well, for hating so many people. Maybe I'm an extremist for not rising above it. Now, I've never been arrested. I've never threatened anyone specifically. I've never committed violence. But sometimes I have made vitriolic comments when I've been so angry that I feel that it's the only way to get the point across, because rational, polite dialogue sometimes... Rational is the wrong word, because the things I'm saying aren't necessarily wrong. It's just the way I'm saying them is not diplomatic. That's what I'd like to say. And I did make a few very heated comments on that forum. But in my defence, when you're suffering day on day, and you have a group of people who are vilifying you even further, calling you a lazy benefit scrounger, etc. By the way, I don't claim any welfare, just for the record. You do develop a defensive approach. And when you hear it so often... Oh, by the way, tabloid editors I also include in that list. I believe the world would be a better place if they were gone tomorrow. The truth is, I'm a very angry young man. That's a blunt reality of the matter. And I don't even know how long I'll keep this video up. I may feel embarrassed about it in retrospect and take it down. But I feel it is important to raise the issues, because probably there's other people out there going through something similar. What I would say is, I take no pleasure from hatred. Hatred is not a pleasant thing. I don't wake up and think, oh, today I want to express my hatred for these people. But it comes instinctively because it's a defensive mechanism. When you see things, when you see headlines, when you see their statements, I could ignore it. Sometimes I do. But the danger is you see so many members of the public being brainwashed and influenced by it, and then you have to react. And, I'm wary and skeptical of people who claim they never feel anger or they never feel hatred. If it's true, it's admirable, because it must take incredibly tough skin to not feel anger at some point in your life. It must... If you never get angry and you never feel hatred, then I don't think you're living. And I'm not advocating that those are good things. However, I would advocate that there are circumstances when they are good things. If you feel anger towards injustice, that's a natural response to injustice. If you see images of political dissidents being tortured and you don't have any emotions, then you're a pretty cold bastard or bitch. If you're moved by that and you feel naturally angry, then you're a normal person, you're living. So I do console myself in that I'm just responding in a human manner to other people suffering. A very large proportion of my anger is empathetic anger. Yes, some of it's about the suffering that I've been through, but a lot of it's knowing that other people are suffering in a whole range of ways. Maybe I will reduce the number of times I use the word extremist low, because maybe the only difference between people who feel hate and anger and extremists is that the extremists actually act on it. They'll commit acts of violence. Now, I hate the Tory Party, and I may at times feel like I want to pretty much deck some of them, and that's an understatement, but I wouldn't go through with it. You know, people say things all the time that they wouldn't actually go through with. And maybe it is, maybe we are full of shit. Maybe, in my defence, I never make threats that I wouldn't do. So I never say, oh, I'm going to go into Ian Duncan Smith's office and bash his head in. I'd like to do it, but I don't say I will because I know I wouldn't. For example. Because I'd be arrested. I'd probably feel embarrassed because then I would come across as a mindless thug. And all round it just wouldn't help anyone. I believe he would deserve it. I believe if someone else done it, I wouldn't criticise that person. Because I believe there's certain members of the Tory Party are deliberately, ideologically, causing a huge amount of suffering. So I do believe that if someone took matters into their own hands, and I repeat, I'm not calling for assassination, because all that does is martyrise them, but if someone who was directly impacted by these policies turned around and decked into Duncan Smith, frankly, I'd find it hard to really think well. Because I felt the same way. I'm not saying they should do that. I'm not advocating that. But I, at the same time, I won't cry crocodile tears and pretend that it would bother me, because it really wouldn't. And I do believe some of these people, Jeremy Kyle's another example, if one of his guests turned around and smacked Kyle, I would think it was justified karma. Anyway, I'm rambling here, but the point I'm trying to make is that anger is a very, very, very powerful emotion. I do feel it quite regularly, more than I'd like to. And I have considered acting on it, maybe some sort of therapy. It's closely related to my depression. Clearly, anger is not, when you feel it all the time, it's not healthy for anyone. And as for hatred, I would like to be in a position to just sort of, now quite often I do engage in adult debate, but there's other times when the level of bigotry is so great that you can't balance that out with rational diplomacy. In a sense, you're fighting fire with fire. Sometimes it's a human response. So when I see comments like, oh, life's too easy for the unemployed, the person who's made that comment, I'm not going to say, well, actually, I disagree, I would take another view. No, I'm going to say, listen, shithead, you're ignorant. I'm not going to have any niceties with that person. I believe anger and hate are fundamental, ancient human sentiments. They're not good sentiments, but to try and denounce them might be self-destructive, because if we keep everything bottled up, it could be worse. Maybe I should reduce the level I express these sentiments, but the truth is there is a lot of injustice and cruelty in this world, and I'm simply responding to it. But maybe the term extremist gets thrown around a lot because maybe that term is a little bit hard to define. And I'll leave it there.